Díomh go léir agus bualam dús boire mo buchas a gáil le uachtarán agus le hordrúnaí an ASTI as an gura lauert live in you an seo Ilach Gorman. It's an honour for me to be here today to address you in Wexford, and I would like to thank the ASTI President, Pádraig Curley, and General Secretary Kieran Christie for your kind invitation to address your convention today. 2026 is a significant year for the Irish education system, as it marks the 60th anniversary of the decision to make secondary education free for all. Our education system enjoys an excellent reputation internationally for its quality, and the Irish people have an ongoing ambition to make sure that that high-quality education is fully accessible to all children and young people. Donna O'Malley's announcement on September the 10th, 1966, paved the way for all young people to access post-primary education. That was the first very important step to ensuring that the state provided all children with equal access to education. But it is fair to say that the school system continues to grapple with that import of that decision, because as we know, there are still barriers for some young people to realise their potential and to thrive, regardless of background or need. I know from my own experience, working as a teacher, that observing learning in action is one of the most satisfying parts of the job. I also want to acknowledge the challenges that working in a complex, modern world brings to our school communities. I want to thank you and all the school communities for your collective commitment to excellence and your professionalism, and for the work that you do with students day in, day out. Since being appointed Minister for Education and Youth late November last, I have met with students, teachers, school leaders, staff, with trade unions, advocacy groups, with education stakeholders, and with parents. And I've noted the many elements of our system which work well and those which do not. Central to maintaining our world-class system are you, the teachers, who work with our children and young people from a range of different backgrounds, who face challenges around online safety, intergenerational poverty and trauma, well-being and other issues. Over the next year, I intend to focus on three key areas. They are helping teachers and school leaders to focus more on teaching and learning, reforms of special education, making the system more inclusive and better for all, teacher professional development to help further support our teachers in helping our children and young people flourish in an increasingly complex world. You may have seen media reports this week about funding for our schools and our teachers, and about the need to further invest in our school system. As I've said recently, I make no apologies for working to secure the additional resources that are needed to support the critical work that happens each day in our classrooms. Our school system is demand-led, and our budget resourcing needs to follow suit. I will continue to push for the resources and the supports that all students need to grow and to thrive. We all know the importance of a good education. It lays the foundation for our young people and for our country to prosper. And that is why I'm deeply concerned by the latest data published by TUSLA Education Support Service on school attendance, which indicates that 1 in 5 of our children and young people are missing at least 20 days of school each year. A range of measures have been introduced over the last number of years to tackle school absenteeism. These include grant funding to schools to implement initiatives to improve school attendance, and a national multimedia campaign aimed at parents and young people to reinforce the benefits of attending school. We also know that our education system includes different types of learners and different abilities, and that we are, as educators, we know that they must strive to ensure that the system works for everybody and equips them with the skills that they need to thrive. We know there are different thresholds in our system for many young people, transitioning from primary school to post-primary, and the junior cert and leaving cert, completing senior cycle level 1 and level 2 learning programs, completing youth reach, leaving their youth service behind when they pass a certain age, or completing an apprenticeship. The system cannot stay still and assume that the approach used today will be fit for purpose indefinitely. That was not the point of O'Malley's decision in 1966, and it is not the point today. We know that a sizable cohort of children also face additional disadvantage, which is why the DESH programme is so important. I recently launched the strategy for tackling educational disadvantage out to 2035 and the new DESH Plus scheme. This strategy is a comprehensive 10-year plan which builds on previous plans and is supported by a full-year investment of €48 million. The purpose of the DESH strategy to 2035 is to address educational disadvantage in all schools so that every child and young person can dream without limits, is empowered to grow, and is inspired to learn and is supported to succeed. The programme takes a whole school student-centred approach. DESH Plus builds on this and will provide enhanced targeted supports to 121 schools, which data indicates have the highest concentration of students at risk of educational disadvantage. DESH Plus strengthens leadership capacity, it expands well-being and family engagement support, and deepens the focus on attendance, participation, and progression. A key feature is the new positive mental health and well-being supports, and each school will be allocated a teacher to lead a whole school nurturing approach. All DESH Plus schools will benefit from a full homeschool liaison post, increased leadership posts, and enhanced guidance provision. Funding will also be available for breakfast clubs in schools in DESH Plus. I particularly welcome the opportunity to reduce the threshold for the appointment of deputy principals in DESH Plus and DESH post-primary schools, in addition to reducing the threshold for certain other post-primary and primary schools. The investment secured in Budget 2026 for these measures is the biggest full-year investment in targeted supports to address educational disadvantage since the establishment of the DESH programme in 2006. It also fulfills an important commitment in the programme for government. Today, I'm pleased to announce the establishment of the AI in Schools External Advisory Task Force. Like all new technologies, AI brings real opportunities for our education system, but also risks. So our response must be student-focused, balanced, evidence-informed, innovative, and robust. For that reason, the task force will consider how best to support teachers' confidence in using generative AI, strengthen students' digital and generative AI literacy, and examine the implications of generative AI for assessment. Teachers' voices will continue to be heard, and their experiences will help ensure that the task force delivers thoughtful, practical outcomes that genuinely support teaching, learning, and assessment. The research on Gen AI in assessment commissioned by the SEC and currently underway will complement the work of the task force. Students, their learning and engagement are at the heart of the junior cycle. As a result of the ongoing programme of early enactment reviews, we updated the Irish specifications in 2023 and will be introducing updated specifications for modern foreign languages, digital media literacy, and coding this coming September. Indeed, Irish continues to be the subject of further review, with a 3-year study ongoing and an interim report due to be published shortly. Last year, changes were introduced to the grade bands at junior cycle, with the top 4 grade bands now becoming more evenly distributed. This was intended to ensure that students' grades are more reflective of their work and effort, as well as the work of our teachers. Students will have seen this in the results in 2025. Currently, my department is progressing an important project that aims to deliver the junior cycle profile of achievement on Junior Cycle Results Day in order to make it relevant and timely for students. Importantly, this will ensure that all students, no matter what programme they are following, receive the same certificate on the same day. And I would ask you all to support this work to the greatest extent possible. You will also be aware of the ongoing 4-year programme of research that has been undertaken by the University of Limerick on behalf of the NCCA, and I've asked the NCCA to liaise with UL to arrange for the publication of that report after schools return. As I said earlier, junior cycle and senior cycle are both well-known examples of key thresholds in young people's lives. But we all know that they are not the only ones. The youth sector does so much important work in supporting our young people, particularly those who experience a greater burden of life's challenges. The department's largest youth scheme is UBU, Your Place, Your Space. It provides out-of-school supports to young people in their local communities to enable them to overcome adverse circumstances and achieve their full potential. In late 2025, 10 new UBU services were established, bringing the current total to 248 nationwide. As Minister, I'm very proud of the work that my department is doing to ensure that all young people receive recognition for achievements that are meaningful to them. We know in this room that the education system is demand-led and responds to need. My vision is that students with additional needs are afforded the opportunity to attend schools in their local area with their peers, relatives, and friends. This is not yet the reality for many children who are forced to travel long distances to access specialist provision. We need to embrace a more inclusive model of education where young people of all abilities are catered for in their community. There is much work to do, and I intend to begin this in the very near future. This work will be informed by consultation, meaningful engagement, and co-design with young people, education stakeholders, and families. Thanks to substantial investment over recent years, including €3 billion this year, more than 240,000 students with a special educational need, around 1 in 4 of our student population, are supported to attend mainstream classes with their peers. Over 30,000 students are supported in either a special class or a special school, and we continue to expand that provision. I want to thank school leaders and staff, including our teachers and SNAs, for all that they do across these schools to welcome, include, and teach children with additional needs. I think it's important to also note the work that we are collectively doing to support transitions from special schools into further and higher education and into adult services. Transitions is a key pillar of the National Human Rights Strategy for Disabled People, which I was honoured to help launch last September, and government departments are working closely to deliver on this important strategy. This government is committed to an education system where every child and young person feels and is valued and is actively supported and nurtured to reach their full potential. We accept, however, that the system needs to adapt. We must strive to develop an education system which supports students of all abilities without attaching a label. One of the issues from the review of the legislation underpinning the provision of special education, EPSN, which included the voices of all stakeholders, including teacher unions, was around language and where we should continue to use the word special. I intend to shortly publish the actions committed to under this review, which is looking at this issue, but also the inclusiveness of the system as a whole. Across the education system, including schools and youth settings, young people are being actively supported and facilitated in becoming much more active in their learning and in their growth. That is why I was delighted to speak at the first meeting of the Convention on the Future of Education last month in Athlone. This is the first convention in over 30 years. The convention's membership reflects the fact that schools, as primary principals, and teachers will well know, and post-primary principals, they are at the beating heart of their communities. It brings together school staff, including teachers, along with parents and children and stakeholders, to help shape the future of our education system together. The ASTI as an education stakeholder, is a member of this convention. The convention's agenda will be informed by the national conversation that I launched in January of this year, where over 40,000 people took part. I'm determined that the convention will have a real impact on the future of education in this country. The recommendations that it will agree will feed in directly to my department's long-term strategy, Our Schools, Our Future. Is linn fad an Ghaeilge, mar sin tá sé tábhachtach fécant an Éilge mar chean go bheo seachas mar ábhar scoile amháin. Sin mar atá sé do phobal na Gaeltachta agus do phobal na scoilnaí lán Ghaeilge las mu den Gaeltacht. Mar ara buaithlim go méid ar scoláirí go léir in an Ghaeilge a labhairt agus go méid siad sásta í a labhairt. Buaithlim freisin go méid ideichas ard chaideáin fáil trí bhean na Gaeilge in ar scoilnaí lán Gaeilge. Tá go leor siúlagin chun na sprochanna seo a bhaint amach. Dail sí mar rinn an policy don ideichas lán Gaeilge las muid an Gaeltacht agus an plán gníomh don Gaeilge i scoilnaí man bhéirle. Is féidir lom, is féidir linn. Tógan an dá policy seo an obair iontach atá siúl faoin policy don ideichas Gaeltachta. Cumáile sin, tá obair tosnithe an sonraíocht nó don Gaeilge san ardteist. Ba deis iontach san obair sin, tionchar dearfach a imirt ólam agus úsáid na Gaeilge i measc scoláirí. The UNESCO project, Strategic Workforce Planning for Teachers in Ireland, also aims to support my department in further understanding how we can ensure the sustainability of the teaching profession in primary and post-primary schools. I mentioned earlier that a priority for me is supporting teacher professional development and helping teachers and school leaders to focus on teaching. You will be aware that my department has started an action research project to support school principals by trialling administrative executive roles in schools. With this trial, we hope to test the feasibility of such a role and also gain valuable data about the administrative tasks that happen in school in order to support schools better. The ASTI has made a great contribution to the development of this project. By identifying ways to support and reduce the administrative aspects of school life, our goal is to find ways of enabling an even greater focus by all on teaching and learning. As a teacher, I'm very proud of the part that the teaching profession plays in ensuring that children's voices are heard on matters of education. It's important too that the voice of teachers continue to be heard in a school community context. I'm delighted to announce that I recently obtained government approval for several amendments to the Education, Student and Parent Charter Bill, and a key measure that I'm proposing is the inclusion of teachers and other school staff in its provision. This will underpin the importance of teachers being consulted with and having input into the development of school policies. Most importantly, I believe that the bill can and will improve the level of engagement between all members of our school community, school staff, students and parents. As you are all aware, the Senior Cycle Redevelopment Programme has been central to the engagement between my department and the ASTI since last year's Congress. I know that in a ballot last year, the Union did not accept the support measures for the implementation of the Senior Cycle Redevelopment. However, I understand you are fully cooperating with Senior Cycle Redevelopment. I know that your union and officials in my department are engaging on these issues regarding the implementation of Senior Cycle reform. I am aware of the issues of concern for this union, including legal protections for teachers who are authenticating students' work, the continued inclusion of oral exams in the teaching of languages, and early rapid reviews. I understand these concerns, and that is why I'm happy to reaffirm that legal protection for teachers engaged in authentication is clearly stated in the coursework rules and procedures published by the State Examination Commission last November. The oral exams will continue to be included in the teaching of languages. Assurances on the continued and appropriate inclusion of oral and oral assessments are set out in the assessment parameters available to the NCCA subject development groups for the tranche 4 and 5 subjects. that early rapid reviews will happen as committed to in the support measures document. It is worth noting that some aspects of the support measures agreement have already been put in place. The revised interim Croke Park hour arrangements have been implemented for teachers who accepted the support measures, which see an increase of the teacher-led hours from 10 to 14. Revised arrangements for the granting of a contract of indefinite duration after 1 year are now in place, as promised by my predecessor last year. The publication by the State Examinations Commission of consolidated coursework rules and procedures, which include specific protections for teachers regarding authentication, as well as clarity on the roles of students, teachers and schools. Improved supports for science subjects, including €12 million in December 2024, €30 million through the Summer Work Scheme last November, and €3 million was paid through the Enhanced Annual Science Subject Grant last December, which included biology and agricultural science for the first time. I'm particularly delighted to note that Level 1 and Level 2 learning programme modules are being followed across mainstream and special settings, with certification provided by the State Examinations Commission for the first time in 2026. My officials are working intensively under the auspices of the new post-primary implementation group to progress other measures dedicated to those who have accepted the package of support measures that was negotiated by both unions with my department. It is my hope that in time ASTI members will also benefit from these supports as they continue to implement the senior cycle redevelopment as committed to under the Public Service Pay Agreement. In the often chaotic world of 2026, it can be so hard for us all, especially younger people, to make sense of the world that we live in. Since the outbreak of conflicts in Ukraine, the Gulf and Palestine, the government has worked closely with our EU and regional partners to advocate for peace and to ensure the safety of our citizens, including the very many working in the Gulf region. We have consistently called for de-escalation and an end to conflict. We know from the national conversation on education how much well-being matters to all of us in our schools. This may well be a reflection of the changing and challenging times that we live in, but it also reflects a fundamental truth best expressed by the philosopher Nell Noddings. My contention is, first, that we should want more from our educational efforts than adequate academic achievement, and second, that we will not achieve even that meagre success unless our children believe that they themselves are cared for and learn to care for others. Delegates, I've enjoyed engaging with you today, and I look forward to working with you into the future. The work that you do is important to ensure that teachers, who are central to the education of our students, have the resources and the supports that they need to deliver for our students. Garamila Magi.